Okay, please begin.
Thank you, Katarina. I'm Gitte. I'm part of a team from the Høeg University in Norway. I'll present an article based on research we did when implementing Storyline here at the university among our teacher students back in 2019. With me in the team is Camilla Halstvedt, Kristine Karlsen, Hanne Pilskog, and Adrian Jacobsen. Yes. A little bit about the context. The Norwegian River Delta is the title of the storyline, which we did in teacher education grade 5 to 10 in 2019, the year before we had to close down because of the pandemic. But the project storyline took place over a period of 1.5 weeks and was compulsory to 60 second-year students involved. It was a classical hero now storyline in present time with the theme sustainable development. It was an interdisciplinary storyline with the interdisciplinary team here at the university with several subjects involved. Our contribution was twofold. Firstly, we wish to contribute to the development of didactics in teacher education, focusing on mimetic aspect. Secondly, we also wanted to contribute to the development of storyline with the teacher education as a context. There is a need for further studies that focuses on the use of storyline in teacher education, and our study contributes with insight on how to develop and implement a storyline within this particular context. So our research focus was not directed towards measuring the learning outcome of the student, but rather to analyze the physical and emotional and also their engagement of the students, and in which way the storyline enables creative and imaginary learning processes. So then our research question was, how are imaginative make-believe experiences created through a storyline implemented as exemplary teaching in teacher education for second-year students where sustainability is the context of learning? A little about the theoretical framework of this research. In the study, we used Ilmi Wilberg's theory of mimetic didactic and adapted it to higher education in order to try to capture the teacher educator's effort in activating students' imaginative make-believe experiences. In order to do so, according to Wilberg, there are some important keywords we would like to highlight. And these are as-if experiences, imaginative make-believe experiences, meaning-making processes, exemplary teaching, and physical and emotional involvement. It was important for us to try and capture the whole and holistic approach on storyline and the teacher's involvement. So we also added Wagenschein and his thinking about exemplary teaching. And he's saying that there is a need to move beyond a platform of instructions, a platform of concentration that prove deeply into a subject or a problem. It's because they're not just a platform, but a mirror of the whole. And in that way, we also try to connect the prior memories of the students to new knowledge and experiences. Our methods was a qualitative methodology we applied, where we were in particular interested in the dialogue in the settings to get an impression of the actual teaching situation, see how others see, and to gain insight into the students and how they will play out the teaching game of make-believe. So we had two main data collective processes. One was the in situ data collected based on observation and audio recording, with 4 groups of students interacting and discussing during the storyline. And the secondly was in-depth face-to-face semi-structured interviews with 22 students just after we finished the storyline. Okay, in this presentation, we will highlight the students' own experiences through imaginative make-believe interpretations through 4 dimensions. The first one is making of the props. The props means the frieze and the handheld puppets. The secondly is taking on fictional roles and role-playing. And thirdly, applying, sharing, and using each other's knowledge. And fourthly, perceiving activities as if they were pupils. In doing so, I will present this by using mainly selected students' quotes, which was the basis for our analysis. But it's important to say that the props used in the storyline was dolls, it was the river deltas, but it was also real garbage picked in their nearby surroundings. Okay, the first one is the making of the props, the frieze and the handheld puppets. One student said, the more you just allow yourself to merge into the project, the more fun it became. I committed, I just decided that I'm going to give life to this nice Nike sock. And the more I developed my character, the weirder he became. And in the very end, he became somewhat of a lone wolf. You must dare to take part and just let go, or else it gets boring. One of the students described the relation between the making of the props and imaginative make-believe experiences as such. I think it's important when you are taking part in a storyline that you actually make props. You cannot just claim that I live in a delta. You need the specific delta to make believe you actually live there. Moving on to the second, which is fictional role and role-playing through props. The role-playing part of the storyline, where the fiction was played out, helped to create imaginative and intensive make-believe experiences, engaging the students in the specific activities. And one student uttered, I had a lot of fun pretending that I made my alter ego with that hand puppet. Like I was an influencer, etc., and really superficial. And it was fun. But at the same time, I also had issues dear to my heart. A student colleague continues, yes, so it gives you the possibility to choose matter near to your heart or something contrary to your values. And if someone wonders, you can say, it is not my opinion, it's my puppet. However, some students emphasize a special relationship between the delta, the prop delta, and the learning of sustainability, which was the curriculum content, generated by make-believe. And he says, when we build a river delta and someone trashed it, it was a glimpse of how it would feel if it had happened for real. As you spend time developing something, and then it is polluted, even though the delta was not fully real, you get that feeling because it has happened to you directly. And another student uttered, and before that, I'd like to show a picture of how we were garbaging and polluting the river deltas of the students. Hanne here with real garbage picked in the surroundings at the shore and outside the university. So it was full of plastic snuff boxes, cotton swabs, and commercials found around the university. And here we see the students sitting, we had a pollution smell coming in, so they needed to protect themselves. And another student uttered, when the delta in which we had invested great efforts to develop was trashed. It was awful seeing all of the garbage ruining what we had spent so much time creating. It was awful to see the earth being littered. The third dimension is perceiving activities as if they were pupils. When the students were reflecting on their own learning of in the interviews, they drew parallels between their own experiences and what they thought pupils in school would appreciate relating to curriculum content. And one was saying, I believe that when using storyline in school, you are doing so many activities that you can reach a lot of pupils. It differs what the pupils think is exciting. So I believe that this is a real opportunity to get all the pupils engaged in something they will find exciting and educational. In regards to the teacher role-playing, one student described as follows how this helped the students commit to their roles. Watching the teachers daring to take on fictional roles and deeply committing themselves to the story being played out, I think it made our involvement easier. It was cool to watch them act. In my group, another student uttered, one of the rules in advance was that everyone committed as far as possible to immerse oneself into the story. And it worked out, and it was fun when the teachers were involved. Moving on to the fourth dimension, sharing and using each other's knowledge. One of the main aims of using storyline within this program of teacher education was to facilitate curriculum learning related to the cross-curricular understanding of sustainable development. So, when analyzing the data, it became evident that the students' perceptions of the utilization of their own subject, either it being arts and craft, physical education, social and natural science, that it affected the potential for experiencing as if. Most of the interviewed students felt that their own subject came into play during the learning process, gaining new perspective on curriculum content, particularly in relation to the other subject. And as you can see, this is a small selection of what activities that were the students were engaged in. Okay. And then they were saying it was fun to be the whole class. I think that it was a nice way to get a comprehensive understanding of sustainable development. I hope and believe that the perspectives presented in this storyline get more people to think about these issues. The 60 students we had different teaching subject, and they were put in interdisciplinary groups while working in the storyline. The important aspect was the whole involvement of the students, and the students sharing also their physical and emotional thoughts and feelings throughout the storyline. Not only in making and in the polluting of the particular props, but also acting out feelings, particularly when we had the polluted delta and the feelings, the reactions. So the study was concerned about the learner's creativity and spontaneity, which might affect the learner more deeply. And then we are seeing it contribute to fundamental transformation of their experiences. Therefore, the reflection must not only reflect the whole of the subject matter, but also educate the whole of the learner by engaging physically, emotionally, and socially in the learning process. So to sum up, the overall picture emerging through the analysis of data is that storyline as exemplary teaching with use of props seems to activate as if learning and meaning-making processes among the students.
Excuse me, Gitte, I will just tell you that there are 5 minutes left.
Yeah. And that these imaginative making-believe interpretation was, in this particular case, created from the making of the props, the frieze and the handheld puppets, taking on the fictional roles and role-playing, applying, sharing, and using each other's knowledge, and perceiving activities as if they were pupils. And our intention, of course, and our wish is that more of our students are actually trying storyline out when they have their practicals in the schools. And we think it's emphasized the authentic learning, which motivates students to engage and pupils to engage in stories. And the article is part of the anthology you see here and which you have seen earlier today. So feel free if you want to read more about the as-if experiences and the meaning-making processes through our storyline about sustainability and data. Thank you so much for the attention.
Oh, thank you so much for this presentation. It was very interesting. And now you can all feel free to make questions here. I will just stop the recording.